Welcome back everyone. Quickly, let's continue our discussion on JavaScript beginners to the advanced level, and right now we'll be discussing about JavaScript syntax part 3. The reason why I'm bringing up JavaScript syntax separately and multiple times is because these are the errors you need to fix yourself. But if you can't fix it, you are learning online. Some people may not want to show you all this kind of stuff, and also you may find it so difficult to get through it or get over it you yourself if you are not good in experimenting. So that's why I'm doing all these my own experimentations for you guys to be able to be aware of some errors you may encounter anytime you are writing your JavaScript, not to just for you not to get tired suddenly, because JavaScript can make you feel somehow in some ways when you are writing your codes. So this is another error I have for you guys to be aware of, because I haven't mentioned some, I've mentioned some. So this is part of it. This is part 3. So let's continue. Let's get going. This is our JavaScript syntax documentations I'm having right here. And in syntax, JavaScript syntax is the set of rules on how JavaScript programs are constructed. You mean? So the rules you have to follow when you are writing JavaScript, the rules you have to follow. So part of the rules is you have to follow the JavaScript value rules, the literal rules, variable rules, operator rules, expression rules. You have to follow keyword rules, and also comment rules. All these rules you have to follow it, and also identifiers and names rules. If you don't follow all these rules, you may find this difficult to write JavaScript. And case sensitivity rules, you understand, you have to follow the rules, and also camel case rules. And again, let's check character set rules, Pascal case rules, and all that. So you have to follow all the rules so that you can write a correct function, a correct statement, a correct instruction. So let me show you some of the rules you have to follow again. So back to our document. This is our document right here. I'm having hello everyone here. Let me delete all this so you guys can see what is happening. Let's write HTML. We need HTML5. So inside here, let's reload. Now we have empty documentations, empty documents, and right here I want to write our JavaScript. Let's say for instance now we want to write JavaScript. We write script. Inside this script we want something. What do we want? We need so we want to output JavaScript code. We need document dot get element by ID, right? By ID, to select an ID from the HTML, and also we want to display it using inner HTML, and is equal to x. This let's say let me give it literal rules. To follow the literal rules, so let's write 1 2 3. I want to output 1 2 3. I want to put it inside x. So inside x element that is having ID of x, let me write h1 tag, and give it ID. When I give it ID of x, so definitely this x right here is going to send signal to the HTML tag. So but one thing you should notice is that I don't put any double quotation there like I did right here. If you notice very well, I put double quote right here, but inside our JavaScript here I didn't put any double quote. So I just want to show you some syntax error you may encounter sometimes. Sometimes you may find it difficult to understand the reason why it's displayed. So now let's see my document and reload. When I reload now, can you see nothing display yet? The reason why nothing display is because we didn't specify double quotation ray. So let me give it double quotation. When I save it now and reload, can you see our 1 2 3 display? And again, If you notice very well, this is our h1 tag and it is displaying very well as h1 tag. Let's now say, for instance, now you want to output this with, let's say, this 1 2 3 that we write here. We want to output it with another, we want to use another function like document.write function. If you are using document.write function inside here and you place our 1 2 3 inside it, like we are saying document.write should write something into this inner HTML, you will see what will happen now. If you notice, this is our h1 tag, right? This will not look like h1 tag again where it's going to output it. That's what I want you to notice. When I reload now, can you see it is saying undefined and it is giving us 1 2 3 like this. And previously I've discussed about this undefined in our previous tutorial, so you can check it if you don't know the reason why it shows it. So to fix this undefined error, one thing you need to check is check this place, this inner HTML. You can change it to small letter here, just only the H is going to be the capital letter. When I save it and reload now, the undefined error is going to disappear. Can you see? Now we are having our 1 2 3, but the 1 2 3 is not looking like HTML 1 2 3 tag, because if you have to write 1 2 3 tag in HTML, let me write h1 now and write 1 2 3 inside it, you are going to see that it's going to bold. But can you see, this one is our HTML tag, is bold, but this one is not bold because it's from the JavaScript document.write line. Document.write, this document.write will not let it look bold. So that's what I'm talking about, because this one is sending signal to this h1 here, but it's never going to let it bold. Let me show you again. Let me delete this one. When I reload my document, you're going to see that instead of having this one, having it look like h1 tag correctly, it's going to look like this. Let me reload. Can you see? This is the way it's looking now. This is part of the error you may encounter. So another error you have to know is that, let's say I delete this one now. If I delete h1 tag, you will think when I reload my document you will not be able to see my 1 2 3 again. It's a lie. Let's reload. Can you see? I'm still able to see my 1 2 3 because I use what? I use this write line, because I use this document.write function to call it. So benefit of using document.write is part of the thing you are saying. So but this our output right here, we can now control it with our CSS by ourselves. You understand what I'm talking about? You can control it yourself by using CSS if you like. But if you don't want to start all those crap again, you can just use your variable level. You can just use your HTML only. So your inner HTML only. Let me use inner HTML only. When I delete document.write and I delete all these, when I reload our document now, it's going to look like HTML tag. But if you notice very well, we have not defined HTML output right here. We don't give any HTML ID of X right here. So now it's not, our syntax error is going to our syntax is not going to display anything. This is going to be a syntax error because there's no place we want to display this thing. So definitely this 1 2 3 is not going to display. The only time it can display is only if you use document.write. You understand? Or other functions that can output something without HTML tag. This one can display like this. You understand? But if you do realize it, let's say reload. Can you see when I reload, we are able to see our 1 2 3. Or if I remove document.write and I save my document, I try to reload. When I reload now, can you see we are not able to see the see our literal again, see our text again. We are not able to see our text again. So to see our text, definitely we have to specify our HTML that is having ID of X. Let me specify h1 tag now. The h1 tag, when I give it ID, firstly let me save it. You will see that we will not see it yet. Can you see when I reload? We don't see it yet when I reload. But when I give it the ID of what? id of x. Now it's going to display perfectly and it's going to look like h1. Now it's not displaying. Why is it not displaying? Is another error again. The error, where the error may be, you will check your code right here again. Definitely we are having syntax error here. Maybe this one here, we have to change it to capital letter, all capital letter. When I change it to all capital letter, you are going to see that our document is going to display. Can you see? Now it is displaying it. So you should be aware of it. I've shown you different error here that you may encounter. You may encounter the error from this inner HTML. Maybe you are specifying HTML in capital letter or low letter, or you may encounter the error when you are trying to, when you don't specify this tag in HTML that can output your x. You are seeing this x is here. Definitely if you change this x to EE, you understand, capital letter EE, and you specify EE right, you don't specify EE right, it's not going to display when I reload. Can you see? But when I put that capital letter E, let's say I put small letter, capital letter E like this, and I reload, capital letter E, it's going to display. But when I put small letter EE, let's say I put small letter EE, let's see if it's going to display. When I reload, can you see? It's not display. So I've shown you different errors you may encounter. I've shown you like syntax error that you may encounter, value error, and literal error. I've discussed about literal error, variable error, operators error, and all that. I've discussed about all this in our previous tutorial. You can check it. Expression errors. So everything works together. There are some errors that they don't specify in these documents that I'm trying to show you guys. So that's part is this is what I'm talking about now. So as you can see, let's imagine you don't put double quote inside this EE. Let's save our document and test it if it's going to display. Can you see? It's not displaying. But when we bring it back and save our document and reload, it's not displaying. Why is it not displaying? We are specifying capital letter here, but right here we need to specify capital letter, not small letter. So when I give it capital letter, now it's going to display. Can you see? Now it display. But the funniest part is that if I give it, I take it back to small letter, and I want to display it by force, I can display it by force by using another element to call, another function from JavaScript to call it. I can use like document dot write. If I use document dot write function, you are going to see our thing is going to display, but it's not going to be bold like this. Can you see? It display, but it's not bold because we have escaped HTML level. We don't use HTML pattern level again. That's why definitely this document dot write can write to our output without HTML tag. That's one thing you should notice about it. So I think you got my point. This is what I have for you guys. I want you guys to practice because practice makes perfect. Let me output a variable also. Let me turn it to variable level. Let's say in the variable level, you can output it using let x. You can output using var x, and we can output using const x. One thing I want you to note is that this one is giving me error, right? And this one is giving me error. The reason why the error is occur is because we're having the variable right here. We don't need to specify it inside this using another statement. This is statement error you should be aware of. This is statement error. So let me show you keyword error. Sorry, I'm talking about keyword error. You notice we have specified let x already. Now we are trying to use let far. We are specifying x right here. We are now specifying far. But let's say for instance now I specify value for x is equal to 22. if I do like this, our code, let me firstly remove this one first. Our code does not know either is this is for keyword of let or x is for keyword of var. That's why the problem is occurring right here. When I save my document now, let's say I want to output it by force. I want to use by force to output it. When I output it, can you see we're unable to see anything? Even if we don't output it by force, we remove this document.write. We are following HTML guideline to output it, and we are using this EE level. We are following EE level, capital letter EE level. Can you see it's still not showing because this is a keyword error, because the variable you have already specified in the let, you have specified this x in the let. Why specifying it in the var again? This is what they call what? Keyword error. So this keyword error, you have to be aware of it also, because it will not display. You can change this one to another variable instead of doing that. When we give it y, can you see now it's saying var y is equal to, we can now say we can now call this x. Let's call the x. Can you see our x is able to display now? Now you can specify y also. You understand? You can now say y is equal to 50. You understand? And we can say z. Even if we give it value and we don't specify, our code will not do somehow. But and if you want to add it or whatsoever, let's say we want to say z is equal to x plus y. You understand? Let us and call the z output right here. When I call the z output and reload our document, can you see we are having the arithmetic equation. We are having the equivalent. So as you can see, 22 plus 50, that's what gives us what? 72, as you can see. So because our syntax is not having error, that's why it's able to display. Let's say if you are having keyword error, like maybe you specify y here and you now give another y inside here. Let's say we want to give it another y. Let's say we give it y. You see, this is a serious keyword error. So when I reload my document now, can you see we are having error? And the reason why we have the error is because the y, we have specified it inside using this var keyword. So why are we specifying it using let again? So that is a serious error. So that is cannot redeclare block scope variable y. That's what is going on there, because we have already defined it in some other, using some other keyword. So that's what you should note. So it's very reasonable when you focus this and you notice very well. If not, it's not going to work as you expected. And there is another keyword again that we can use, which is keyword of we can use const keyword. This const keyword used to work in different ways again, because when, let's say you want to specify something. Let's say I give it x, y, z. I give it r or z. Let me give it z. Yes, let me give it z. No, let me give it a. Let me give it a. If you notice very well, it's showing us an error. When I save my document, let's imagine I close it and I save my document. Let's see. Can you see we are not able to see our code? But let's say we remove it, we'll be able to see our code. Can you see? Let's bring it back. Let's see what happens. What happens is that these const don't allow us to assign variable later, like the way we did right here for var. As you can see, for y, I'm able to define the value for the y. But if it's const, if I specify var a, I must give it value immediately. Like I should give it value like value is equal to 33. Now we are not seeing an error. Then when I save my document and reload now, we are going to see what will happen. Can you see? So now if we want to use the value we specify inside the a, and we want to plus it again with all this one, we cannot do it. We cannot say maybe plus a. You understand? Our z is still going to give us reasonable answer. Can you see? This is our answer to for adding all the variable values together. So you should be aware of all the errors I've showed you earlier, because these are some stuff that can make you get tired of JavaScript as a beginner. If you don't focus all these things I'm talking about, you may find it somehow to understand JavaScript. You have to experiment it yourself. That's why I always tell you every time, if you experiment it, you will understand it better. But if you don't, no way. So like this one now, if you say const a, and you now come down here, you now say a is equal to you now say a is equal to 20. Let's say a is equal to 33. You now say a is equal to 33. Can you see? This is an error. It's not allowing us. That is, this one is expecting us. It say const declarations must be initialized. That is, you must initialize it. If you don't, there is one thing we call, when I reload now, it's not going to show any answer, and it's going to disturb our code. But when I bring all these things now, I bring it to the top right here, everything inside the same line. When I save it and reload, we are going to see our answer right here. Can you see? This is 105, the equivalent. So I think you understand what I'm talking about now. If you are we have discussed about syntax error, keywords error, output error, variable error. So the variable error are this one I told you about, and the keyword error are this one. Keywords, these are the keywords, and syntax error also we have discussed about. Arithmetic error, operators error. So the operators error I've discussed about it. So identifier error, the identifier error I can give you also is, let's say for instance now, this y now you turn it to like example this x, you now say 0x. It's never going to work. This is a serious syntax error, and this is part of the thing they call name error. Naming error. This is identifier error, or we can call it names error. So you have to be aware of that. You cannot use number at the beginning of your variable. You should be aware of it. I've discussed about all these in our previous tutorial. You guys should just go and watch some of it. So this is one of the things I have for you guys today. So let's now say, for instance, now we want to output anything using our HTML. As you can see, to use HTML tag, let's say I use h2 tag now. If I use h2 tag, I call this ID of, I give it ID of something. Maybe I give it ID of dd. You understand? This is going to output clearly if I specify, if I use document dot get element by ID of what. If I use ID of dd, I want to output something into the dd, and I want it to be inner HTML in capital letter level so that we don't have any error, and we want to say is equal to x is equal to z again. I want to output the value again. So definitely the value I have at the top, I want to have it again inside our second output. Like the value I am having here, I want to see the value also right here. Let me display it again. Let's reload our document. Can you see? Now we're having h1 tag and our h2 tag. If you see, they are smaller to each other. This one is bigger and this one is next to it. And if you want to use our h3 also, you can do the same thing, and it's going to work perfectly because our syntax is not having any error. You understand? Let's say I call it cc. If I call it cc and I come down here and I do the same thing again, I carry all this, I paste it here, I just change this ID right here, I turn it to cc. If I output it, you are going to see another one. Can you see? We are having h1 tag, h2 tag, h3 tag. Everything is looking nice like we expected. But let's say you mistakenly use h in capital letter and small letter HTML. When I reload my document, can you see we are unable to see the third one again, because of this syntax error we are having here that I've discussed about previously. And again, you have to be aware of the document.write. Let's say we want to output it by fire by force. We can use document.write. When we use document.write and we enclose our value inside our z, definitely we are going to see the value. Let's reload. Can you see? But we are able to see the value and we are able to see undefined error. So you should be aware of that. This is the value. So because we output it by force, so that's why that the syntax is having error. So not to see the undefined error, you can just remove it and do the needful. Let's save our document now and reload. Just to do the needful. Now we have did the needful. Let's say for instance now, let me take it back to where it was. Let me take it back to where it was, where I specify this, and I give it document.write. Let me give it document.write so you guys can see what I want to talk about here. As you can see right here, because I want to output it by force, as you can see undefined error. But one thing you should note is when I change this HTML to small letter HTML, when I change the HTML to small letter, can you see the undefined error disappears? You understand? You should be aware of that. But it's not affecting all this one. Let's say this one I will change it to HTML small letter. Let's see. Can you see? We are not able to see it again. So everything works in different ways. You should be aware of it. So I don't want you to get confused. If you should check your code, check your HTML, check it, and check other things as well. Anwar Akorede ayofe is my name once again. I wish to see you guys next time to the next tutorial. Peace and love. Have a great day. Thank you so much, and to the next.